Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, a podcast about garden history and literature. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and today is November 4th. Well, good morning, friend. Today we are edging ever closer to a significant moment in the gardener's calendar, Election Day, which serves as nature's unofficial deadline for planting our spring bulbs. You see, there's still time to plant those tulips and daffodils tucked away in your garage or your garden shed, but Mother Nature and the ballot box are giving us a gentle nudge. The logic behind this Election Day deadline is beautifully simple. Bulbs need warm enough soil to establish their root systems before winter's grip tightens. Think of it as nature's version of voter registration. There's a cutoff date for a reason. And while bulbs planted after tomorrow will likely survive winter's challenges, they'll have less time to develop their underground democracy of roots. And those forgotten bulbs that you might discover in late December, well, they'll be like late voters. They'll miss their chance to make their full impact in spring's grand display. But here's the good news. The flowers are already formed within these little botanical time capsules. So as long as you've chosen quality bulbs and planted them with care, they'll cast their vote for spring beauty when the time comes. Here's an excerpt on spring bulbs from Louisa Yeomans King, who wrote under the pseudonym Mrs. Frances King. Here's her diary entry for November 4th, back in 1926. She writes, "This is the last chance for bulb planting. If you've neglected your orders, try now by letter or telegram for what you want. It may not be too late to secure small quantities of good tulips, hyacinths, and the lesser bulbs like scillas, chionodoxas, and muscari. And no one with a pink plum, Prunus tribola, should fail to plant drifts of muscari heavenly blue beneath its branches." She liked that combination. So muscari heavenly blue underneath a pink plum tree. So there's a little recipe for you if you have a plum in your landscape. Well, speaking of November's character, today I'm reminded of Thomas Hood's perfectly stark poem that captures this month's essence. Hood was a London-born poet who lived from 1799 to 1845, and he gave us perhaps the most memorable description of this transitional month. This is one of my all-time favorite poems about November. No sun, no moon, no morn, no noon, no dawn, no dusk, no proper time of day, no warmth, no cheerfulness, no healthful ease, no comfortable feel in any member, no shade, no shine, no butterflies, no bees, no fruits, no flowers, no leaves, no birds. November. Well, there's another voice that finds beauty in November's stark landscape. Maurice Maeterlinck, the Nobel Prize-winning Belgian playwright and poet, offers us a different perspective. He wrote about the crowning glory of autumn, the chrysanthemum. Maeterlinck observed, "Every year in November, at the season that follows the hour of the dead, the crowning and majestic hours of autumn, I go visit the chrysanthemums. They are indeed the most universal, the most diverse of flowers." Another fan of chrysanthemums. Well, today's question for your garden is this: As we approach this natural deadline for bulb planting, what forgotten treasures do you have tucked away, waiting to join next spring's parade of colors? Take a moment today to check those garage corners and garden shed shelves. There might be hope waiting in a paper bag. It's time for today's Botanical History. It was on this day, November 4th, in 1775, that the English botanist John Bradby Blake was born. John left behind an extraordinary legacy that bridges East and West through botanical art and discovery. As a young supercargo or trading agent for the British East India Company in Canton, China, John pursued his true passion for botany during his spare time. Working closely with Chinese artists, John commissioned nearly 200 exquisite botanical illustrations of Chinese plants, many of which were completely unknown in the West at the time. But John wasn't content to simply document these botanical treasures. With methodical care, he experimented with different ways to transport live plants and seeds across the vast oceans. He carefully packaged specimens in tortoiseshell boxes and wax, testing various soil types and watering methods. In the bustling trading port of Canton, young Blake forged what was truly remarkable for his time, a genuine collaborative relationship with Chinese artists and scholars. He worked particularly close with Mao Xiaoyu, who also went by Mai Shu, whom Blake considered not just an employee, but a true partner in their, quote, joint endeavor to document China's botanical treasures. His notes mention not just the famous Hong merchants, but also the gardeners and plant collectors who shared their knowledge with him. Through his translator and friend, Wang Atong, Blake created a bridge between two very different worlds of botanical understanding. After John's death, Wang Yitong brought John's precious drawings home to England. Today, John's meticulous paintings and notes are preserved at the Oak Spring Garden Library in Upperville, Virginia, where they continue to tell the story of this remarkable young man who in just a few short years helped open a window into China's rich botanical heritage for the Western world. Nearly 200 exquisite illustrations blend Chinese artistic traditions with Western botanical precision. Each painting tells a story of cross-cultural collaboration with Chinese characters carefully annotated alongside Latin names, creating a unique dialogue between East and West that continues to inspire researchers today. I've put a sampling of these images on the blog post that I wrote for John Bradby Blake, and you'll see a link to it in today's show notes. Now, perhaps the most poignant aspect of Blake's story lies in what might have been. Had he lived beyond his 28 years, his complete Chinensis project might have revolutionized our understanding of Chinese flora decades before later botanists made their mark. Yet, even in its unfinished state, Blake's work opened doors for future plant hunters and helped establish a template for East-West scientific cooperation that would influence generations to come. Today we celebrate the birthday of William Rickatson Dykes, who was born on this day, November 4th in 1877 in Bayswater, London. Though he began his career as a classics teacher at Charterhouse School, it was his passion for irises that would ultimately define his legacy. Like many great plant lovers, Dykes' journey into botany began with a fortuitous meeting. While studying at Oxford, he encountered Sir Michael Foster, who introduced him to the enchanting world of irises. This chance meeting sparked a lifelong obsession that would transform our understanding of these rainbow-hued flowers. In his garden at Godalming, Dykes created what became a living laboratory for iris research. He was known to appear in his dressing gown at dawn, rushing to his artist with freshly opened iris blooms that needed to be painted immediately. Such was his dedication to capturing these fleeting moments of botanical beauty. Dykes' masterwork, The Genus Iris, published in 1913, featured 48 exquisite color plates and became the definitive work on iris classification. Dykes' attention to detail was legendary. He would notice the tiniest characteristics, such as the small black spots only visible when holding an iris leaf up to the light, a detail that helped identify water-loving species. Tragically, Dykes' life was cut short at age 48 in a car accident on December 1st, 1925. Just days after receiving the prestigious Victoria Medal of Honor from the Royal Horticultural Society. But his legacy lives on through the Dykes Medal, established in 1926. It remains the highest honor in iris breeding to this day. Generally speaking, I try to limit myself to just 2 botanical history segments for each episode in the middle of the podcast. But today I stumbled on a reading that I wanted to share, and it involved a tractor. And then I checked through my research, and sure enough, today is the birthday of Harry Ferguson, who was born on this day, November 4th in 1844, near Dromara in County Down, Ireland. Ferguson revolutionized how we cultivate the earth on a grand scale. Born into a farming family with Scottish roots, Ferguson combined an inventor's mind with a farmer's practical understanding. His most significant contribution to agriculture came in 1917 when he turned his attention to solving one of farming's most persistent challenges, the relationship between tractor and plow. Now, what makes Ferguson's story particularly fascinating is how he approached the problem of plowing with an engineer's precision. His breakthrough invention, the hydraulic 3-point linkage system, transformed the way tractors and implements worked together. Before Ferguson's innovation, tractors and plows fought against each other. After his invention, they worked as one unified system. Today, the Ferguson legacy lives on in the Massey Ferguson brand, created in 1953, and Harry Ferguson's influence can still be seen in virtually every modern tractor's 3-point hitch system. A memorial garden at his former home, Growell, Ireland, stands as a testament to this remarkable man who changed the face of agriculture forever. Well, the reading that got my attention that I wanted to share with you, the one about the tractor, is from A Gardener's Memoir. This is a book that was published by Midge Ellis Keeble, and I love the title. It's called Tottering in My Garden. Anyway, here's what she wrote in this little chapter called Helps and Helpers, and I thought you'd get a kick out of it. She writes, "If a man has a city garden, he will be content with a spade, a fork, a rake, and a good power mower. he might just add a sprayer. But put him on 5 acres in the country, and the first thing he wants is a tractor. The bigger the better. Bright red. The only tractor that will handle the grass, the snow, and the hills out here now costs $50,000 plus attachments. The only way to get the value out of that is to have 100 acres and hire yourself out to clear snow and plow fields. Then you need a barn to store it. What most of us do is buy a 16 horsepower and ride that around merrily for a while, wearing a straw hat. Then phone the nearest farmer and hire him to do the job. Meanwhile, you have to build something to store your own small tractor. We attached a third garage to the 2 we had to be the garden shed. We should have built a barn. But you do have to have one. A tractor hauls. It hauls earth, leaves, manure, wood in its little cart. But if you don't have it, you'll be doing all that hauling with a wheelbarrow. I have only one piece of advice on garden equipment, all the way down from the tractor through the spade to your secateurs. Buy the absolute best, the top of the line. Garden equipment takes a beating, and there's nothing more useless than a secateurs that won't cut and edgers that won't edge. Even worse is not being able to find the tool you want at all. Be sure to build a shed or a small barn that's big enough. It won't be. Have a definite place for everything and hang up signs that say, "Clean it off, put it back." They won't. Isn't that fantastic? Well, that little excerpt was just begging to be read. And of course, celebrating Harry Ferguson's birthday. It was a home run. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, My Favorite Plant by Jamaica Kincaid. This book came out in 1998. It's an oldie but goodie, and the subtitle is Writers and Gardeners on the Plants They Love. Well, in this charming anthology, Jamaica Kincaid has gathered an extraordinary bouquet of literary voices, each sharing their most beloved botanical companions. And what makes this collection truly special is how it weaves together 2 deep human passions, the love of plants and the love of words. Now, one of the other reasons that I love this book is I love the size of it. This is a little treasure. It is a specialty book. I would say it's about 5 inches tall is all, and maybe 4 inches wide. So this is a little gem that you can tuck in your purse or set by your bedside, and it's not going to gobble up the entire table. And then another wonderful thing about this anthology is that it spans the centuries. Basically, if the garden writing was good, it didn't matter when it was written. Jamaica included it in this book. Here's what Jamaica Kincaid herself wrote in the introduction of My Favorite Plant. She wrote this in Vermont in March of 1998. She writes, "I have tried to arrange these essays and poems and excerpts from gardeners, be they in the wild like Frank Kingdon Ward in the foothills of the Himalayas, or at home like Catherine S. White on a farm in Maine, in such a way as to give the illusion of a garden I would like, a garden of words and images and flowers turned into words, and the words in turn making the flower, the plant, the bean visible." I loved reading all the pieces in here. I was amazed by and grateful for the generosity of the contributors. But then gardeners will give wholeheartedly and big-heartedly. That is why they are allowed to covet. At the end of it, this book, I hope that the reader will have some satisfaction. Not complete satisfaction, only some satisfaction. A garden, no matter how good it is, must never completely satisfy. The world as we know it, after all, began in a very good garden, a completely satisfying garden, paradise. But after a while, the owner and the occupants wanted more. Isn't that great? Well, that's just a sampling of the writing from Jamaica Kincaid. I wanted to share two particularly captivating passages from the book. These are just little snippets from the book. There are so many wonderful essays. You can read one a night or half of one a night and be thoroughly satisfied, as Jamaica said. But first, let's listen to how Michael Pollan describes the surprising allure of the castor bean. He writes, "There's something almost indecent about the castor bean's vitality, the way it rockets from seed to small tree in a single season, unfurling those preposterous dinner plate leaves along the way. Everything about the plant is oversized and subtropical, which is precisely why I grow it in my temperate garden." And then there's Maxine Kumin, reflecting on Thoreau's relationship with beans. Maxine writes, "When Thoreau wrote about making the earth say beans instead of grass, he wasn't just being clever with words. He was speaking to that profound moment when we realize we can coax the earth to speak our language through cultivation. When we understand that we can participate in creation." So thought-provoking, isn't it? Well, the whole book is like that. There are just so many wonderful little snippets in this, and that's why it's one of my favorites. I keep it right here in my office, and I reference it all the time. This book is 336 pages of intimate plant portraits, each one revealing not just the character of a particular plant, but the heart of the writer who loves it. From Christopher Lloyd's passionate defense of poppies to Marina Warner's nostalgic memories of the Guinea rose, each essay offers a unique window into the ways plants enrich our lives and capture our imaginations. You can get a copy of My Favorite Plant, edited by Jamaica Kincaid, and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $3. That's how much the used copies are going for. So that's a steal. All right, we end the show today with a post that I wrote on the blog called Saving Summer, the Indoor Garden Encore. It was on this day, November 4th, 1994, that garden writer Barbara Pleasant just finished writing her article about extending summer's joy through winter by bringing our beloved bedding plants indoors. This article appeared in the Montgomery Advisor in Montgomery, Alabama, the following day on November 5th. You know, I love this topic because there's something so hopeful about saving a bit of summer's glory from frost's inevitable arrival. Barbara points out that while we can't save everything from winter's chill, many of our favorite bedding plants are what she charmingly calls windowsill hardy. And I love that little phrase, that windowsill real estate becomes very valuable during the winter time. And by the way, I just want to mention too that I love Barbara Pleasant. I love everything she's written. I love her garden sensibility and I love her garden voice. So when I saw this post, I had to include it in today's show, and I thought it was the perfect thing to end the show with. Making choices and bringing a sampling of the garden indoors for winter. Geraniums, those cheerful companions of summer, can become endless bloomers when given a bright window and a little love. Here's Barbara's advice on overwintering geraniums. And I definitely wanted to include this because this is a question that gardeners have every single year. How can I get my geraniums to make it through winter? Well, here's what Barbara wrote. Geraniums often bloom nonstop all winter when kept in a bright window. If your geraniums are in pots, simply prune them back until 3 green branches remain, and then bring them indoors. You can also dig up geraniums growing in the ground, plant them in 6-inch wide pots, and treat them like houseplants. A third option, and by the way, this is my personal preference, is to cut off several 4-inch cuttings from your geraniums. Place the cuttings in a jar of water for about 3 weeks until you see new roots, and then pot them up. By late winter, those new rooted cuttings should begin to bloom. Well, what I find most endearing is Barbara's mention of those volunteer marigolds, those plucky little self-sown flowers that appear in late August, as if nature itself is trying to give us one last gift of summer. And let's not forget those silvery sentinels of the garden, Dusty Miller, whose frosted leaves seem made for brightening our indoor spaces during winter's darkest days. Barbara writes, don't forget about herbs too, whether you dig up whole plants or root a few cuttings. A small pot of rosemary or sage may be perfect for your kitchen window. You can also pot up some indestructible chives. With luck, your summer leftovers will last well into the new year. Well, this article reminds us that gardening isn't just about the growing season. It's about finding creative ways to keep our connection to the garden alive all year round. Whether it's a small pot of kitchen windowsill herbs or a rescued geranium blooming in February, these little bits of saved summer help us remember that spring will come again. Well, that's it for today's show. What a delightful journey through the garden we've had today. From our reflections on November's gentle transition and those last precious moments we have to plant our spring bulbs, to our celebrations of 3 remarkable innovators, this episode has woven together threads of hope, persistence, and ingenuity. Each of today's stories, from Blake's botanical artistry to Ferguson's mechanical innovations, reminds us that the garden connects us not to just nature, but to generations of creative minds who have helped shape how we grow and tend our plants. We're part of this continuing story of human ingenuity in the garden. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.